Good morning. Welcome to the presentation of our work on Incoterms. Incoterms are a short and snappy way of saying international trade terms. Incoterms specify all the tasks, risks and costs associated with the transaction of goods between the seller and the buyer. EXW or X works. The buyer assumes almost all costs and risks during shipping process. The seller's only job is to make sure that the buyer has access to the goods.
FCA, Free Carrier. I'm going to present the FCA Incoterm, which stands for Free Carrier. With the Free Carrier Incoterm, the seller delivers the goods to the carrier or another person nominated by the buyer at the seller's premise or another named place. The parties are well advised to specify clearly as possible the point within the named place of delivery, as the risk passes to the buyer at that point.
DVAS Incoterms role applicable to maritime transportation. The seller is responsible for clearing the goods for export and placing them alongside the ship at the port of delivery.
I'm going to present the FOB Incoterm, which stands for Free On Board. Using the Free On Board Incoterm rule, the seller is responsible for the delivery of goods loaded on board the vessel. The risk and costs are transferred to the buyer as soon as the goods have been loaded on board the vessel.
If the companies choose CFR, which stands for Costs and Freight, the seller covers the transportation cost till the destination part. However, the risk and the insurance shift to the buyer once the goods boarded the vessel. It's like embarking on a trailing voyage where the buyer takes over the helm. CIF stands for Cost, Insurance and Freight. The sellers covers the transportation costs and insurance for the goods during the transit, and the seller covers the cost of insurance and freight to the named parts of destination or place. This ensures that the buyer is protected in case of unexpected twists or turns during the journey. The risk is transferred as soon as the goods are loaded onto the ship. The seller is required to purchase minimal insurance coverage in the buyer's name in the case of damage or loss. CPT, Carriage Pay To. Carriage Pay To means that the seller delivers the goods to the carrier or another person nominated by the seller at an agreed place, if any such place is agreed between parties, and that the seller must contract for and pay the costs of carriage necessary to bring the goods to the named place of destination.
I'm going to present the CIP Incoterm, which stands for Carriage and Insurance Paid To. With the carriage and insurance paid to Incoterm, the seller arranges the transportation cost and insurance on behalf of the buyer to a named place at destination. The risk is transferred to the buyer once delivered to the first carrier. The seller is obliged to obtain extensive insurance cover complying with insurance cargo clauses or similar clauses in the buyer's name. It is important to check levels of cover and investigate if additional insurance is required. The seller also pays for insurance.
DPU de Incoterms. Delivery at place unloaded. The goods are unloaded at the agreed made place at destination. In this case, the buyer is responsible for import customs formalities. DPU can apply to a mode of transport on multiple modes of transport. The buyer and the seller should specify and agree named place of destination, the risk of loss on damage prices. The buyer is responsible for loading the good on the ship, associated costs until final destination.
DAP, delivered at place. I'm going to present the DAP Incoterm, which stands for delivered at place. With the DAP, simple means that the seller takes on all the risks and costs of delivering goods to an agreed upon location. This means they are responsible for anything associated with packaging, documentation, export approval, loading, charge, and ultimate delivery. The buyer, in turn, takes over the risk and responsibility for unloading the goods and clearing them for import. The difference between DDP and DAP is that the buyer assumes responsibility for import fees and taxes and as well as unloading the merchandise.
DDP, delivered duty paid. The seller assumes almost all responsibility during the shipping process. The seller covers all costs and risks associated with the transportation of the goods to the agreed address. The seller also makes sure that the goods are ready to be unloaded. The seller fulfills export and import responsibilities and pays all duties. The risk is transferred from the seller to the buyer when the goods are ready to be unloaded at the agreed address of the country of destination.